And we are back with year number 6 for the channel 10-year anniversary custom league. It turns out that I missed a pretty big transaction during last year's trade deadline as Chris Keaton was traded from the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies, his longtime team, to the Salt Lake City Lakers, and he finished with 70 points in 69 games played total. And the Boardwalk Bullies got Vitaly Kulik back in return. Also, a couple of changes that I've made to the league rules, or league info rather. I've increased the goals per game average to 5.54. I believe before that was 5.44. And another change that I made, I changed the draft maximum age from 23 to 20 so that teams could focus on drafting younger prospects instead of drafting prospects that I have seen enter the league at 21, 22 even. So we're going to have the maximum age set to 20 so that those prospects can have more time to develop. And then obviously another new change that we had at the end of the last video is the minor league that has been added to the save file. So this league is obviously still very new, still going through a lot of change, but I think all these changes will definitely help the growth of the league going forward. So with that being said, let's get underway with year number 6. Pretty big trade here. You have Kristaps Skattens to the Checking Lions in exchange for Kevin Zook going to the Supernovas along with a 4th round pick. And now let's take a look at the draft log for this past draft. Going first overall to the Checking Lions, you have Corey Dwelock. Then to the Tokyo Katanas, you have Jordan Bose. To the Fargus Holy Knights at number 3, you have Brock Witala. To the Nova Scotia Supernovas at number 4, you have Jim Sarr. To the Fargus Holy Knights at number 5, you have Norman Sullivan. To the Christmas Elfrings at number 6, you have Albin Anderson. To the Halifax Tugboats at number 7, you have Julian Thierry. To the Wolfsburg Wolves at number 8, you have Hugo Christensen. To the Salt Lake City Lakers at number 9, you have David Vered. And to the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies at number 10, you have William McGuffin. And someone of note in the second round, to the Checking Lions at number 15 is Kevin Bedard. It was a 1.5 star ability already and 3-star potential. Now let's take a look at the free agent signings, starting with the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies. You have Selby and Janssen and Hansel, none of which are major players. And for the Christmas Elfrings, you have Carl Oller. Nothing for the Checking Lions, nothing for the Fargus Holy Knights. The Halifax Tugboats have signed Pepito, Steve Henryon, 2-star player, and Tim Lyons, 2.5-star player. Looks like he's in the minors for right now for whatever reason. I imagine they call him up though. And the Nova Scotia Supernovas have signed Elias Lawn, 3-star ability, and Greg Walters, a 2-star ability. The Salt Lake City Lakers have signed Stephen Fontaine, 1.5-star ability, Konstantin Vishnev, 2-star ability, Ivor Kokolovich, a 1.5-star ability, and Marco Payari, a 0.5-star ability. And the Seattle Emeralds have signed Philippe Stika, 1-star ability. The Tokyo Katanas have signed Trevor Lynn and Joseph Sladicek. The Wolfsburg Wolves have signed Ross Caldwell, 2-star ability, Guillaume Maltai, a 1-star ability, and Mikhail Kubanka, a 1-star ability. And then we're back to Atlantic City. And it seems there have been a lot of free agent signings since we last checked. So I'm just going to go through them quickly and then I'll point out the notable ones. It doesn't look like there's anyone really notable here. It's mostly just prospects that they've signed from the past drafts, it seems. Yeah, I think most of the notable guys went early. Oh, here we go. So we have the season preview this year. Yeah, I guess I must have had the general option unticked. That's probably the reason we didn't have it last year. So the early cup favorites appear to be the Halifax Tugboats, led by Dan Price, the 5-star ability defenseman, and they can expect challenges from the Christmas Elfrings and the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies. Seattle is apparently a dark horse, of course led by Buddy Elfring, who should be on the Christmas Elfrings, but I guess they had other ideas for him. And the scoring race will likely be between Justin McNeil of the Checking Lions, Artem Portnenko of the Fargus Holy Knights, and Bob Cunningham of the Christmas Elfrings. And the top defenseman in the league is considered to be Dave Lively of the Christmas Elfrings, Valentin Ivanov of the Tokyo Katanas, and Maxim Banchikov of the Checking Lions. And then for the top goaltenders, you have Nate McCormack of the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies, Mark Carroll of the Nova Scotia Supernovas, and Lucas Bues of the Tokyo Katanas. So with that all being done, let's get underway with year number 6. Ooh, got a pretty major deal here. Martin Lofgren and Nick Cannon go to the Salt Lake City Lakers in exchange for Mikhail Jokinen to the Christmas Elfrings and a 6th round pick. And it looks like the Tokyo Katanas have fired their coach Arndt Schmidt and replaced him with Toki Kawaguchi, as they are currently 9-17-2 on the season with 27 points. So after missing the playoffs last year, it looks like they're on track, unfortunately, to do the very same this year. Oh, the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies have fired their coach, Bobby Parker, and have replaced him with Christian Hocknell. Looks like a lot of firings this year in terms of GMs and coaches. You have David Dorsey getting the slip from the Checking Lions, and they're actually now looking to replace him with me. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to reject that as I am the commissioner, but it seems we have a lot of turnover going on here, at least as of late. All right, so on January 1st, the halfway point of the season, and here's what the standings are currently looking like. You have the Wolfsburg Wolves in first with 75 points on the season so far. The Halifax Tugboats in second with 71, as well as the Seattle Emeralds, who are tied. And they actually have that in less games played. The Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies in fourth with 68. Nova Scotia Supernovas in fifth with 65. The Christmas Elfrings in sixth with 61. The Fargus Holy Knights in seventh with 58. Tokyo Katanas in eighth with 45. So they're right there with the Salt Lake City Lakers and the Checking Lions. All three of those teams in a race for eighth. So we'll make sure to keep an eye on that as the season progresses. And let's take a look at the player stats for the season so far. And currently leading the league is Remy Texier of the Halifax Tugboats with 58 points in 43 games played, followed up by Cunningham, Furzin, McInerney, and Markovich are the top five. And for the team stats, the Halifax Tugboats are scoring the most goals per game with a 3.09, and the Wolfsburg Wolves are letting the fewest goals allowed per game with a 2.12. Face-offs, you have the Checking Lions leading the way with a 52.3. Power play, the Seattle Emeralds lead the way with a 22.2. And the penalty kill, the Wolfsburg Wolves with an 86.4. And so far, there has been a lot more goal scoring than last year for sure, with a 5.44 goals for per game. Still not quite where I'd like it to be, but it's definitely better than a few other seasons here so far. So with that, let's continue the simulation, and we'll probably get through the end of the regular season here. Oh, the Fargus Holy Knights and the Christmas Elfrings have made a trade. Jared Beckett goes to the Christmas Elfrings with 35% of his salary retained in exchange for Justin Morris, who goes to the Fargus Holy Knights, so a veteran swap there. Then you have Mark Bartman going to the Seattle Emeralds in exchange for a third-round pick, going back to the Christmas Elfrings. Here's a notable trade deadline trade. You have Alexander Tretsevsky going to the Seattle Emeralds in exchange for a third-round pick, going back to the Salt Lake City Lakers. And then you have Dave Prout, the young defenseman, going to the Tokyo Katanas in exchange for Charles Meade, going to the Checking Lions. And we have finished the regular season of year number 6, and here is what the playoff picture is looking like. You have the Wolfsburg Wolves finishing first with 142 points and 44 wins on the season. Then in second, you have the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies with 133. The Halifax Tugboats in third with 132. The Seattle Emeralds in fourth with 127. The Christmas Elfrings in fifth with 119. The Fargus Holy Knights in sixth with 114. The Nova Scotia Supernovas in seventh with 110. And the Tokyo Katanas in eighth with 106, meaning the Salt Lake City Lakers and the Checking Lions finish outside the playoffs. So for the Salt Lake City Lakers, they were in the playoffs last year. They missed this year. And for the Checking Lions, that is 5 years with no playoff appearance. Oh man, it has not been pretty over there for them. Let me tell you, they have had one playoff appearance during this league's existence, despite the fact that they have players like Maxim Banchikov, Justin McNeil, Roger Beers. I mean, it seems like they're stacking up on good young players here, and they still, for whatever reason, cannot make the playoffs. So now here's a look at the playoff bracket. You have the Tokyo Katanas versus the Wolfsburg Wolves, the Nova Scotia Supernovas versus the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies, the Fargus Holy Knights versus the Halifax Tugboats, and the Christmas Elfrings versus the Seattle Emeralds. And it will be the Seattle Emeralds who take their first championship in this league. They went through the Christmas Elfrings, the Tokyo Katanas, and the Fargus Holy Knights. So here's a look at each individual series. The Tokyo Katanas took care of the Wolfsburg Wolves in 6. The Nova Scotia Supernovas took care of the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies in 6. The Fargus Holy Knights defeated the Halifax Tugboats in 5. The Seattle Emeralds just barely squeaked out the victory against the Christmas Elfrings in 7. Then in the second round, you have the Seattle Emeralds winning against the Tokyo Katanas in 7. And then the Fargus Holy Knights swept the reigning Cup champions in the Nova Scotia Supernovas. And then, of course, the Seattle Emeralds beat the Fargus Holy Knights in 6. And then the Tokyo Katanas won third place over the Nova Scotia Supernovas. So now let's take a look at the final season stats. The goals for per game for the league was a 5.54. So that's exactly what we set it to for the average to be. And it turns out that's exactly what it was at the end of the season. So that's good to see, I suppose. And let's take a look at the player stats now. So you have one 100-point scorer this year, and that is Bob Cunningham of the Christmas Elf Rings, with his first 100-point season since year number 3. He almost had it there in year number 4, but not quite. And he may very well have had it last year if not for his injury. He only played 65 games, but yet another great year for Bob Cunningham. And then you have Irving Hollick in second of the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies with 86 points. Ivan Furzin in third with 77. And then you have 74 for Texier and Ketchemayev. It looks like Texier might have been able to get to 100 points if not for an injury that he had. He only played 58 games, so that's unfortunate for him. But he's certainly one of the top talents in the league now when it comes to offense. Then you have Daryl Bruce in sixth with 73 points. Thomas Monteil of Seattle with 71 points. Hector Herrera of Wolfsburg with 69. And then you have Eric Brandstrom and Radim Kopetsky with 68 points each. And then for goalie stats with a minimum of 20 games played, you have Jensen with a 928 save percentage and 9 shutouts in 66 games played. Poulon in 74 games played with 10 shutouts and a 923. 923 save percentage for Carroll and 9 shutouts as well. So a lot of shutouts here this year, it seems, despite the increase in offense compared to last season. Lucas Bues of Tokyo with a 920 and 4 shutouts, a 914 for Huxley and 1 shutout, a 914 for Cannon and 7 shutouts. So some pretty good goaltending this year all around, it seems, as no one on this list had any less than a 904. And now we will end things off with the awards. So you have Bob Cunningham with the points award. We knew that. The goal scorer award goes to Eric Brandstrom, who had 41 goals. Goals against award goes to Derek Poulon of the Wolfsburg Wolves. The best defensive defenseman goes to Joe Reed of the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies. And the best captain goes to Tommy Lessard of the Seattle Emeralds. And the MVP between Dave Lively, Artem Portnenko, and Bob Cunningham, it is Bob Cunningham. And for the playoff MVP, you have Vladimir Ketchemayev of Seattle with 15 points in 20 games played. For the Rookie of the Year between Don Alonge, Derek Poulon, and Jordan Bose, you have Derek Poulon of the Wolfsburg Wolves. He was a rookie? Are you kidding me? The goalie with 10 shutouts and a 923 save percentage in 74 games played. What exactly counts as a rookie season for a goaltender here? Because he has 3 seasons under his belt. Why is he the Rookie of the Year? Yeah, I'm not sure how you can consider Poulon a rookie still, when he played 56 games 2 years ago and 68 games last year. Yeah, that's a bit puzzling. I wonder if that's a bug. Certainly does not seem like he should be considered a rookie at this point. Defenseman of the Year between Dave Lively, Matt Corns, and Vitaly Kulik. It is Vitaly Kulik of the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies. Best defensive forward between Pete Sheffield, Maximilian Hager, and Justin Morris. It is Pete Sheffield of the Halifax Tugboats. For the goalie of the year between Mark Carroll, Jonathan Jensen, and Derek Poulon, it is Jonathan Jensen of the Halifax Tugboats with 9 shutouts and a 928 save percentage. For the GM of the year between Montgomery, Joss, and Curry, it is Mark Montgomery of the Seattle Emeralds. And the best coach between Emmett Lockhart, Peter Hornick, and Mike Kane, it is Emmett Lockhart of Seattle. Wait, what? Hold up. Why are players like Mark Johnson and Vital Laflamme in the minors? Mark Johnson is a 4-star ability, and he's down here in the minors. He had 121 points this past season, and Laflamme as well. Saboka, McKibben, Brett King. Why are all these guys in the minors? Were they just randomly generated this year? Yeah, it seems like they were randomly generated this year. I would certainly hope that they're signed in the major league as soon as July 1st here, because it seems like they're a little too good for the minor leagues there. You know what? While I'm thinking about it, let me see this league. Oh, this league's goals per game is 6.29. No wonder you're seeing some players who got a jump there. That must have been as a result of the creation of the minor leagues this year. I would imagine that a lot of these players get signed in the major leagues. I mean, I can't see why they wouldn't. Yeah, it seems like all these players were created this year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as we head in the offseason here and see if any of those players sign in the majors. I would imagine they do. So with that being said, I think we'll end things off here. And the next one, we will go through year number 7 in the WWSY Hockey League.